starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
The electricity here in Columbia, well, has been buzzing loudly all weekend.
Passion of the crowd in Williams-Brice Stadium is second to none.
And the rave breaks out in Columbia.
It is good!
Gamecock fans, welcome home.
See how it goes, but we'll be ready to go.
It's time to root.
Let's go, Carolina!
It's gone! Touchdown! What a hit! He baked it in! Can you believe it? Gamecocks have won this game!
Here are your hosts, J.C. Sherber.
Oh, watch him celebrate now!
Phil Molinex.
My wife doesn't like hanging around losers.
And Jamie Bradford.
I'm going to tell him, you look like you joined Duck Dynasty.
All right, greetings and good morning. Welcome aboard and welcome home inside the Gamecocks, the show live from the Sinorama Studios and built by the Barndo Co. The barndominiumco.com, where you can build your dream home for as low as $160 per square foot if you live in the Carolinas, in Georgia, or in Tennessee. JC, JB, and Phil here until 1 o'clock this afternoon. JC will be in just a moment. He is wrapping up some things with JC and Morgan, as a matter of fact. But Phil's here, and that's good. That means that the show is on. It will be on with Wes Rucker from Tennessee's version of 24/7 Sports here in about 25 minutes or so. 11:30 this morning is when Wes will jump in with us and help us continue to put a bow on the 2023 version of SEC Media Days. The Vols, high expectations once again, and I'm quite confident, Phil, that they have the University of South Carolina already circled on their schedule this season after last year's debacle for Tennessee at Williams-Brice Stadium. We'll also be joined at the top of the 12 o'clock hour, the noon hour, by Dave Cloninger of the Post and Courier. He's on his way back from the state of Tennessee. Of course, he was there covering SEC Media Days for the Gamecocks and for the Post and Courier. So somewhere along I-40, I'm assuming, is where we'll get David Cloninger, and we'll just hope and pray that it's pretty good coverage while he's out there on his cell phone. But outside of that, an interesting question was posed to JC earlier in the week, and it was, who is the out-of-nowhere guy? And we have decided to pick that up and run with it today on our program as well. And what does that question even mean? Well, just think Nick Eamon-Warry or DQ Smith from 2022. You don't have to go back very far to find somebody who, quote unquote, came out of nowhere. Two guys from the Midlands, of course, whom were not very highly recruited by others, but the Gamecocks are ecstatic to have them. Speaking of recruiting, really quickly, an update here. Liam Andrews has selected Penn State as expected. He is the number 101 overall prospect in the top 24/7 class of 2024. So he will be basically staying home instead of coming down south to play for Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks. With all of that said, Phil, we'll continue, like I mentioned, to kind of wrap it up from this week that was in Nashville. And we've got basically one more week, and then it starts August 4th. Carolina will roll out the pads, and they'll get rolling to get ready for 2023. What's up, man?
Oh, man, it's all right. It's all right. It's I'm excited for football season right around the corner here. We're dealing with fruit flies in my house, so it's driving me nuts, man. I can't. Our youngest daughter, we found out yesterday, was just putting leftover fruit and food into her trash can in her room.
Oh, no.
So she comes up to me after the show yesterday. She's like, "Hey, Daddy, I have flies in my room." I'm like, "You have flies in your room? What kind of flies?" She was like, "Little tiny itty bitty ones." I'm like, "Oh, God, no." Okay. So I walk in there. I was like, "Where are they coming from?" She was like, "I think my trash can." And Jamie, I swear, I opened this can up and a cloud of fruit flies just comes out of this trash can.
No.
Oh my goodness, man. It is like nuts. And so now it's like, I'm about ready to drive everybody out of here and fumigate this thing because it's bad. We've got traps set up everywhere. And the whole house smells like apple cider vinegar because we're trapping them in these bowls.
No.
Every 15 minutes, there's like 30 to 40 dead fruit flies in these traps. It is, oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, man.
I know. I know. Kids, gotta love them.
Yeah. That is.
No.
There's you did the apple cider vinegar like in the little dish.
Like in a little dish, put a little dish soap in it to break the surface tension. So as soon as they touch it, they just sink to the bottom. Yeah. And it's an effective trap. It's just like, oh my goodness, like there's that many.
I mean, are they still there? Do you feel like you've conquered the large majority of them, or
I know just from the bodies that I've poured down the sink that we've gotten rid of at least 300, and they're still around, right? It's just it's
oh my god.
I mean, when I say it looked like a scene out of a movie, right? Like you open up something and then this cloud of insects comes flying out at you. That is exactly what happened to me yesterday.
I learned my lesson on that the hard way, by the way, when we one time when we were seeing fruit flies in our home, and we discovered they had to be, of course, coming from the trash. Because I've made that same mistake. Well, I don't know if you call it a mistake, but I've opened the trash can before and done the same thing. And the next time that happened, I got smart. And I went and grabbed the vacuum and I turned it on, and I just turned it on. And as I opened the thing, I shoved it in there and just started going back and forth for about 30 seconds. And then when I lifted it up, I could tell there were still a couple around that were trying to escape, and I got pretty much all of them.
Yes. So, should have done that. I didn't realize the extent of what was going on in that trash can, because when I pulled the can out, I looked at my wife. I was like, she's in here making prison hooch in her trash can. There's so much fermented fruit. And I was like, it's like a damn science project in here.
Oh man,
my goodness. Yeah.
that's
summer's almost over.
Yeah. They're almost out of your hair. Well, you don't have hair, so they're almost.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, August 8th can't get here quick enough, though. I'm ready for everybody to be back
coming quick. Summer's flying, man. It's crazy.
I know.
It's crazy. Before you know it, we'll be in Charlotte getting ready to watch Carolina and North Carolina kickoff.
North Carolina got my hotel booked. We're going to be there.
Continues to, by the way, on that front, to be pretty good signs pointing to the fact that as we predicted long ago, College game day more than likely will be nestled safely somewhere on the grounds of Bank of America Stadium to preview that ball game. So looking forward to that announcement, more than likely coming probably in about a month. And we will see those guys. If you're hitting the road up there, you'll be able to enjoy the Carolina Rise / Big Spur pregame party, and prior to that, you'll be able to enjoy College game day. So hopefully, a win will accompany both of those major events in Charlotte. It is.
Want to see some Carolina Rise signs in the background of game day would be awesome.
That would be awesome. There you go. Who are we going to challenge? To that, Lisa's in the Nana Sports chat box today. Maybe Lisa will make a Carolina Rise sign and take it with her to Charlotte if she's going. Lisa, if you're going, it's now on your shoulders, and if you need to pawn that off on somebody else, kind of make it like the Washington State flag, where it's shipped all over the country.
Yes,
and it just shows up. So maybe we'll put Lisa in charge of that, since she seems to probably be of all of the others in our chat box today and always, she seems to be one of the most responsible. So Lisa, it's on you. I don't know you, but I like you. So we're going to put that on your shoulders moving forward. All right.
Everybody gets a job.
Get that going. That's right. All right. Again, JC will be here in just a little bit. He's wrapping up a version of JC and Morgan this morning, and we'll get him in. Wes Rucker and David Cloninger are both due up on our programming today, and we are certainly looking forward to talking to Wes, because not only is Tennessee expected to be a pretty good program this year, but they are coming off of the NCAA's well, I don't even know what you call them anymore. I was going to say, the NCAA put the hammer down, which I guess they kind of did that. And that's one of the things, like with their violations with that, you had, and I just don't understand this. The national media literally only focused on the bowl ban. Oh, they didn't get a bowl ban, so they're fine.
In today's day and age of the opt-out and all of that, I mean, postseason bans don't carry the weight that they used to. It just doesn't. I mean, you get a unless you're in the playoff, it's a shell of a team you're carrying in there generally, with multiple starters out. So I don't know. I mean, it doesn't carry the weight. It doesn't carry the weight. $8 million, isn't that what it was, or was $6 million?
Well, it was 8, but then it was
8, and then the 5,000 plus the 3%.
Of the football budget, right?
Yeah, so $8 million is a lot of money.
Well, you're probably talking a little over 10 million, really, when you get down to it, right?
Yeah. And I know a program like Tennessee can, bounce back from that, but with the limited unofficials, and taking away some of that time, it's gonna make recruiting more of a challenge.
Right.
And if Tennessee's product on the field isn't, as good as it was last year, not necessarily as good, but if it isn't as flashy and, doesn't catch the national eye as much as it does, you're going to need every minute you can with some of these kids. And I think it's I put it on Twitter. I was like, it's sneakily punitive.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it on the top, but when you dig into it, it could have some effects.
Yeah, no, it could. And I think that's, again, where some of the main writers for college football have missed on this, because quite frankly, they know jack, what about the recruiting calendar and what it entails and how important certain pieces of it are to building a program. Now, I'm not saying that anybody laid the hammer down on those guys. That's not what I'm getting at here. But I am saying that, I mean, had you taken, all right, let's play it this way. All the stuff that they got, wipe that off the board and give them a 3-year show cause on bowls. Okay, you can't play in a bowl game for 3 years. What's worse? It's what they got than playing in a bowl. Again, to your point, though, now if you, with the playoff, if you aren't allowed to play in the playoff, that hurts. That hurts. And they certainly could have, implemented something like that. But the fact that they just got off scot-free, I totally disagree with that. And so I'm anxious to talk to Wes and see how Tennessee feels. I'm sure they feel, I'm sure it's 50-50,
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and it's hard. I mean, you're in a spot, you're punishing this year's team for something that happened, 2-3 years ago.
And I'll never agree with that.
I don't like that either. There's got to be some other way, but you can't, dip into Jeremy Pruitt's, you can't fine him directly, I don't think, I mean, but I don't know.
Right.
But there's got to be a better system set up.
Yeah.
They're so deliberative and with this process of, trying to make sure they've got their ducks in a row, it takes so long that by the time these consequences come down, I mean, shoot, nobody's there.
Well, that's the issue. Like, and I'm not saying that I'm not for a bowl ban or something like that, but if you're going to implement those type of things, the people that need to suffer for that are the ones that committed the violations. But those that have committed the violations have already received show causes, so they can't even coach. I mean, they're out. Now, Drew, what was his last name? He actually was at South Carolina under Will Muschamp before he went up and took that quote unquote director of ops job for Jeremy Pruitt. He left Tennessee before, maybe a couple of years ago. Might have not been that long, but it's been a while ago. I'm sure he anticipated this was on the way, and he's in the NFL. If I think, if memory serves me correct, he's with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So they can give you this show cause when it comes to college football. The NCAA, of course, has zero jurisdiction with the NFL. So Jeremy Pruitt, while he cannot coach, he could be hired. He can be hired, and other coaches on that staff can be hired. But the institution that hires them will then have to provide an explanation to the NCAA as to why they feel that he should be able to coach. Just because they hired him does not mean that the NCAA will go through and approve that request. So
Right.
Jeremy Pruitt theoretically can shift out of college football and maybe go get a job in the NFL if that's what he wants to do, because he really, really wants to coach. But nonetheless, Wes will have more on that for us here coming up in just a little bit, and we'll get his thoughts on what transpired this year at SEC Media Days. And by the way, the more that I thought about this, guys, and JC has popped in here, the more that I thought about this, and I know, again, the narrative is, I've seen it. Oh, Lane Kiffin has, and Chris even mentioned it yesterday, and I don't necessarily agree with him, that, he spent all this time up there complaining about NIL. You know what? I'm glad he's got the nuts to stand up there and say what he believes, because nobody else does. And I don't think he was wrong. You know, he's up there talking about the fact that college football is self-destructing because of the transfer portal. We just spent 2 months talking about the fact that college baseball coaches are literally spending all day long scouring the transfer portal from 5, 6 in the morning until midnight. I don't care, how ignorant somebody is to make a comment about, well, they get paid millions of dollars, they can do it. That's just an ignorant comment. That means you know literally nothing. Like, you don't know anything of what you're talking about. Like, it is not just that easy to continue to try to build a program, have players leaving your program in the middle of the night, having to scour the country and get to know these guys. Shane Beamer made a great talked about this the other day, and it was a great example. We spend 2 and 3 years recruiting guys to make sure it's the right guy for us. And then sometimes we got to figure out within 2 or 3 days whether this guy's the right guy for our program. And then guess what? The pressure to win now is 10 times what it was yesterday and 1,000,000 times what it was 5 years ago. So if you go in there, I don't know, Billy Napier, and you go 6 and 7 again this year, there is a strong chance Florida's going to fire him, because they're not going to put up with that. And so this whole transfer portal thing, and the fact that these guys, on top of all of this, bringing the human element into this, like, let's all bring the human element into it. Phil, you have a family. JC, you have a family. I have a family. The large majority of people that watch and listen to our program, whatever it is, 5,000, 6,000 people a day, they have families. And while money is very important to the future of your family, and maybe the 3 and 4 and 5 generations down the road, as much money as some of these guys make, it still hurts to spend 16, 17 hours a day in your football facility because of things like the transfer portal when your son is out playing his first T-ball game. And that's tough. That's tough. And so, Lane Kiffin got up there and said what he needed to say. I don't disagree with him. I'm glad he was bold about it. And he said it on the heels 3 days after the commissioner just did the same thing, basically. So for those who felt the ignorance to go out and criticize him, I don't know, open the book and read it first before you start talking about how bad it is. I thought that was poor on behalf of some folks, but hats off to Lane Kiffin for saying what he said. I thought he was the best guest of the entire week as far as the coaches go.
Yeah, and I don't think Chris was going off on him. I think it's Chris's first media days, right? I think Chris just
no. I don't think he was
using
going
that
off
as an example of
they weren't talking about the team.
Ball.
Yeah.
But and I get that certainly, because I think most reporters do want to get off topic and talk about that. But yeah, I respect Lane Kiffin a whole lot for that. I also respect the fact, guys, did you know Lane Kiffin as a head coach is 84 and 47? That's about what Spurrier's record was at South Carolina. Yeah. Now, it's spread over 4 schools, but he's won 14 SEC games in 3 years at Ole Miss.
We call it 3.5 schools, but I
don't know that. Yeah, after Cutcliffe did his steady tenure there, and then Hugh Freeze kind of took him to new heights. And then they had the Matt Luke thing. I don't know that people thought Ole Miss could come back and be that a consistent winner like that. So hats off to him. I was just thinking about that day. So, I mean, he won a lot. Although I get the feeling this may be the year maybe they dip a little bit. They always have a dip year and stuff. But anyway, that's beside the point.
I stand my ground on the fact that I think he's the successor to Nick Saban at Alabama.
Could be.
Yeah.
He's the one guy who can handle that job without the pressure. You know what I'm saying? But people, you don't want to be the guy to follow the guy. We've seen this 1,000 times. It doesn't work. He's the one guy who could follow the guy.
The structure at Alabama would be night and day different.
Sure.
That's the one thing I've heard about Lane Kiffin. He is much closer to Steve Spurrier in the kind of the loosey-goosey structure of the program.
Yeah, I get it.
Than he is to Nick Saban. But, hey, maybe, you get to the point of all that. Saban leaves a program in great shape. Les Miles won a national championship because of the work Nick Saban did. I think, actually, you could probably credit Ed Orgeron's championship to Saban as well, because LSU had been in the wilderness for 25 years before Saban got there and straightened everything out, and he leaves it right. I mean, I don't know, man. I think my dog could coach a Nick Saban inherited program and probably get to the Independence Bowl or something. I just I have that much good to say about the impact Nick Saban makes on a program. But yeah, that's possible, because you're probably going, if you're Bama, you're probably going to shoot for Dabo. Maybe not. But who else is there? Jeremy Pruitt, talking to people at Alabama, Jeremy Pruitt was at one point considered the guy.
Well, hey, much like they avoided Rich Rodriguez, good thing. Alabama, JC, has been this close to making some pretty – and they made some – people forget about this. We've talked about this before with South Carolina specifically through the lean years, and the fact that everything always changes. Nothing stays the same. Nothing. Alabama's the greatest program in the history of the sport, and it's like people forget that they just were not any good in the late 90s and early 2000s. They weren't good. And, I mean, you go back and think about the coaches that they had. I mean, they hired – never. We're not going to go all the way down this road. But like, if you go back, you know what I'm saying? Like, they have made some poor hires, and they've almost made some worse hires.
Rich Rod would have been because we saw what Rich Rod did with Michigan. When he got the big time. I mean, and like a program like Michigan, you think about them, Rich Rod, Brady Hoke. Finally they got Caged Animal Syndrome and got the guy, and now he's winning.
Yeah.
But it's strange. Some of these big programs, and I think if you're a program like South Carolina, that's what you want to do. You want to wait for the other guys to screw it up. I think the problem is with these years with the Gamecocks have not been able to get a lot of traction. And I'd say prior to Beamer getting here and kind of in the late Spurrier years where they missed out on division titles they should have had and stuff. At that point, how much longer will Florida and Tennessee be a dumpster fire? Well, I think we're finding now Tennessee's kind of caught on to something. Will Florida, that kind of thing. But now with the divisions going away, you got to worry about everybody, not just those two. But but yeah, the big boys do screw it up. Alabama's very fortunate that they because they went after Spurrier, he said no. They went after Saban, he said no. They offered Rich Rod the job, he backs out. Who's going to get it? I don't know. Finally they got Saban and the way they go. Had they gotten somebody else, we may be on Bama coach number 5 since then.
They still have Steve to thank for that, because Steve told him, you need to call out Nick Saban. He'd probably be a good one for you. I'm good right here at Carolina, boys. Y'all need to call that Saban guy. He's pretty
good. The worst part about taking that job after him is just going to be the immense pressure, because it was like, I know you talk about Michigan, JC. I mean, but do you see Alabama giving the new coach, even if they go out and get, quote, the guy, the are they going to show him the patience that Michigan showed to Hardball?
No. It'll be more like when Bo Schembechler left Michigan.
Yeah.
Gary Moeller took over for a while. And he was so. Well, then Lloyd Carr was that next guy. And a lot of times when you have a legendary coach leave, it's the next guy. Very few situations happen like at Oregon where Mike Bellotti, who was a great coach, leaves, Chip Kelly takes over, and they get better. That rarely happens. I mean, and it doesn't really matter who you hire. I mean, look at Clemson when Danny Ford left. They went and hired Ken Hatfield. Ken Hatfield was an amazing coach at Arkansas. I bet he wishes he'd stayed. and he goes and he's like, "Oh, shame on you, Clemson! You remember when you got fired? Shame on you, Clemson! Shame on you! Shame!"
It just doesn't always work out. I mean, people who were up in arms about Muschamp. I understand it. I'm not saying I don't. I'm not saying they were wrong. But there's reasons sometimes to believe that some guys are going to work out, and they don't. And there's a reason to believe that it could work for. Matter of fact, guys, after year 2, when he went 9-4 at South Carolina, I think some people are looking around going, "Well, actually, this might actually work out here." And then
a lot of people did say that, myself included.
Yeah.
I think,
and then Florida 2018 happened.
I think Will served his purpose. I think he got the roster back in shape. He laid some groundwork, got a facility built. It was sad. The last couple of years were sad, and it sucked because he wasn't a type of hire.
Yeah,
that you could give him 5 years and say 5-6 years. Say, go, well, it's in the gutter. Go build. You maybe could have done that if you'd have hired a guy like Lincoln Riley, but I don't think Lincoln Riley could have recruited his way to get that roster in any sort of shape to compete right away. Muschamp did that, and he left some really good players. He left some positions as a disaster, but he left a lot of positions that were pretty doggone good. And there's still players he recruited on this team coming up this year that are going to play significant roles and probably go to the pros. So I think he served his purpose. And sometimes it just works that way. Like if you look at Will's career, he's set to follow Mac Brown at Texas. And then he's like, I'm going to go follow Urban Meyer at Florida. And then I'm going to follow Steve freaking Spurrier at South Carolina. I mean, those are impossible situations.
He's a guy who probably suit good, like starting a program like UAB a couple of years ago. Like, we need someone to get this thing going after we've been gone for a little bit. JC, we got to step aside for a break. Wes Rucker is due up here in just a minute. Hang tight. Inside the Gamecocks, the show built by the Barndo Co. We'll be right back. Welcome home. That's what the Gamecocks say, and so does the Barndo Company, where they can build your dream home starting as low as $160 per square foot. If you live in the Carolinas, Georgia, or Tennessee, their turnkey process takes just 4 to 6 months on average and can be custom designed by size and details. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barndo Company, Gamecock, owned and operated.
Welcome to TravelingCountryClub.com, your modern golf club experience. Hey folks, this is Michael Manus, former Gamecock golfer, inviting you to play more golf with a membership to TravelingCountryClub.com. With over 40 courses across the Carolinas, our membership provides you with an affordable way to enjoy a club-like golf experience. From the mountains to the coast, we offer golf courses that will challenge all types of golfers, no matter your handicap level or level of play. Plus, we offer unique membership benefits not seen anywhere else as part of Traveling Country Club. Tee it up with Traveling Country Club, TravelingCountryClub.com, TravelingCountryClub.com, proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Hey Gamecock fans, it's Evan Stone from Gamecock Baseball. A couple of painters paint the show garnet and black every day and get the job done right at a fair cost. Go to letmepaintsomething.com for information and an estimate. Go Cox!
You heard Evan Stone, Gamecock fans. 10% off for military repeat customers or mention the show. Interior, exterior painting, fencing, cabinet staining, concrete painting, popcorn ceiling removal, and more. 803-522-6832. LetMePaintSomething.com. Eleven 11:35 here on this Friday, finally Friday, watching the Open Championship while we're in the studio here getting ready for the weekend. And Brian Harmon had a hell of a day. He shot a 65. He's at 10 under in the Open, and my man Rory just can't get it going. But Spieth's at 5 under, so there's some good news for those out there who are golfers. Wes Rucker is he not in, Phil? Not yet. Can't hear you. You're muted.
No.
Okay. All right.
Not yet.
So he's a little bit late. David Cloninger coming up at the top of the 12 o'clock hour as well.
Oh, Dave's coming today. I was not aware of that.
Yeah, do you not read your text? He must not read his text, Phil.
I probably missed one or two, just to be honest. So,
from yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, yesterday. Yesterday was kind of a roller coaster day for yours truly. So, but no, yeah, great to do. I like Wes and Dave. They're two of my more favorite people. They're funny. Wes is busy. Wes is because Wes has a child and he's busy. So, that's the thing. So read my text, JC. So anyway, that's the deal there. But I think it'll be good to talk a little Tennessee. We had a great interview. It was on the heels of the Chase Belt Park Avenue interview on Wednesday. But I went back and looked at it this morning. The Jordan Hill from Dogs27 interview was really, really good. I think he's very fair, balanced, straightforward, tells it like it is. He got into some of their personnel issues or non-issues, whatever you want to call it. They're going to be extremely good again this year. But I'm putting that up on the it's called The Opposite Sideline on the YouTube page. So go back and check that complete interview out. I'll put Jeff Tarpley's from A&M up after that, and then I'll have this one with Wes. So we'll have this little SEC preview going on the YouTube page, and so you guys will enjoy that. Call it our little version of Athlon or Lindy's. You remember Athlon or Lindy's?
Or just it's Phil. They have Phil Steele and we have Phil Mullinax.
Spencer Rattler on the cover of Phil Steele this year.
Yeah, we have Phil Mullinax, Mad Dog Mullinax, as a matter of fact. As it pertains to Tennessee, they have been up on graphics all week long as one of those cross Power 5 matchups in the opening weekend because they've got Virginia at noon on ABC on that Saturday, September the 2nd, before taking on Austin Peay and then heading to the Swamp to see the Gators. And that would be, if they can get the win, I think, and Wes will know the answer to this, the first time in 20 years they've actually gone down there and beaten Florida. But nonetheless, we have Wes Rucker with GoVols247.com. Finally, media days is over, and some of us, like you, get to breathe a little bit. What's up, man?
Yeah, what's going on, guys? I hope that you can hear me all right. I'm sitting here in the studio, but I had a little bit of a technical issue, so I'm on my iPad instead of my computer, so it's not looking or sounding the way it normally would. But to your point there that y'all were talking about a second ago, it's like that woman in Titanic said, it's been 84 years. Yeah, it's been a long time since Tennessee has gone down to Gainesville and gotten anything from it. So we'll see if that happens. I don't know, but it's certainly possible. You would expect them on paper to be the better team, but we said that.
Yeah,
I'd be shocked for them not to be a 2-touchdown favorite in that game.
The 2017 game, Wes, was unreal. Like, I had a buddy, and I happened to go to a funeral that day. But my neighbor in Greenville, South Carolina, a huge Tennessee fan. And we got the habit of watching games together, drink a little beer, eating some boiled peanuts, whatever. I had to go to a funeral that morning, so I get back. We're all fired up. Looked like the Vols had won. And freaking Felipe Franks, of all people, throws a rope right there and touchdown, Florida won.
Yeah, it's funny because there had been a couple of Tennessee-type Hail Marys in that series. You had James Banks of all people throw one. Throwing one at the end of the half. So there's been some weird stuff there. But it's funny because Tennessee there for about 15 years took so many kicks to the nuts that you kind of lost count of which ones happened when. But that was a doozy, man. That was. And I love the press box in the swamp. It's open, so you get to see, and dude, that was loud, man. That was a moment. That was one of those ones that you're like, okay, I'm seeing something pretty cool here. Like, I know Tennessee fans are going to be miserable about it, but I'm seeing something kind of cool here.
Well, those are certainly two programs going in different directions right now. It's TBD on the Gators, but more of the same, I think, is expected from Tennessee this year. Wes, though, only a few days ago, they got the ruling from the NCAA. So what's the word in Knoxville about the punishment that they received? How are they feeling about it?
I think they're happier than people outside of Knoxville and the state of Tennessee are about it, if I'm being honest. I mean, I think that they felt like this is about what they were hoping, and because they took a different path on this. I mean, you got teams like LSU and UNC in the past years who have basically just told the NCAA, sit and spin, and here you go, like, this is what you get. And Tennessee was like, no, here's everything that happened. This is every single thing. We looked at it ourselves. It's really bad, but here it is. Please don't kill us. Please don't kill us. And we fired everybody. We sent the players away, yada yada. But it's really bad. But hey, here it is, and it worked. They got hammered. I mean, it's the biggest financial penalty that the NCAA has ever given. It's that's a number of scholarships. It's not an insignificant number. That's a pretty fair amount of scholarships, and it's also games you can't have. Like Tennessee uses games at Neyland Stadium, like everybody does at their stadium, for big recruiting weekends. And Neyland, you can put on a show there. And there's been a couple times in the past years, and there's been a couple more where they couldn't have official visitors in. They couldn't do some of that stuff. So they've taken their medicine in a lot of ways, playing with 64, 65 scholarships that first, almost FCS numbers. 35 players, I think, left the program. So it's not like they got nothing. But there were people who wanted them to get more, and those people aren't happy because they didn't get more. Now they're on 5 years probation, so if they do anything in the next few years, look out. But right now, I think they feel like they've sort of weathered it.
I think JC and Phil and I were going through the details, literally the moment that they broke, right before we popped on the air, whenever that was, a few days ago. And I think that a lot of the national narrative, this is just my personal opinion on this, Wes, is incorrect. Because they only focused on the bowl ban and the fact that they did not receive one. Now, if they make it into the college football playoff, that's certainly something that would have been a major penalty. But if you read the fine print of what came out, and of course I know that you have, there is a lot of stuff in there that is a little bit self-destructive to building a program, and even things in there that I've never seen before in penalties issued by the NCAA, like these basically these meetings they have to have with reps in the room to make sure that they're going through these training seminars and all this stuff. I mean, that's like Spanish class when you're a sophomore in high school. You want to sleep through it, or University 101 or something like that. But they're going to have to do that in addition to all the recruiting stuff that you just mentioned. And you and JC, y'all know the recruiting calendar as well as anybody out there. There are going to be some hurdles to clear with all of that for them.
There will, and certainly those things will complicate themselves even more if they get in more trouble, which it's funny to me kind of that they have to have those meetings, because I think from a compliance standpoint, like since Heupel's been there, maybe their biggest compliance issue has been like maybe somebody farted in a compliance meeting or something. Like they've not had really anything, you know, in that standpoint in the Heupel era, certainly. But yeah, I mean, there are some really interesting things in that penalty. And basically they did everything they could except for the bowl ban. Like they even went above and beyond with certain punishments, but they didn't do the bowl ban. Because there were some people, including yours truly, I'm being honest, at the time, who said, screw 2 years ago, just don't do it. Just don't do it. Just go ahead and take the penalty then. Oh, no, you're not going to play in the who gives a crap bowl. And I'm sorry for the players, but, you know, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. But Tennessee, from the beginning, consistently said, hey, the players implicated in this left the program. Implicated in this were fired. Everybody still here, as far as the NCAA knows, has not committed a violation. So why are we going to punish the people who did the right things? You know, and that's how NCAA punishments are weird, because what happens is people who didn't do the thing get punished for things that they didn't do. And that's, but people are only in college for 4 years. So how are you going to punish people? There's not really a great answer there. But I think when you look at the severity of the other penalties in this case, I think it mitigates a little bit the fact that they didn't get a bowl ban, because they got absolutely blistered in a couple of other ways. But they've also known that was coming. So for a couple of years, they've been trimming scholarships, they've weekends, they've sort of kneecapped themselves a little bit behind the scenes to get through the process. So I think that's something that I don't know if it's been reported quite as much by people outside Knoxville. And I get that, because national media have one of the most difficult jobs you can imagine. How it's hard enough to know what's going on all the time in one program. Try 130. Try even or 5 conferences. It's hard to know what is going on everywhere all the time. So you're not going to get the nuance from a national level that you're going to get from a local level. So I understand that, but I think there are mitigating factors there.
As it pertains to the 2023 version of the Vols, give us the before fall practice begins synopsis. I know Josh was up there yesterday following Coach Beamer, as a matter of fact, at SEC Media Days. But, you know, it feels like Rocky Top thinks we're back after a spectacular year last year. So transitioning forward, new quarterback, kind of walk us through where they stand going into fall practice.
Yeah, first off, I think it is kind of funny and appropriate that before Heupel, because I think he earned that right last season down there in Columbia with that absolute piping that Tennessee took down there. But yeah, I think they feel pretty good about where things are. I think they're saying the right things in that last year was good, but they wanted more because, you know, maybe the rebuild schedule, and it definitely is. There's no question about it. But once you get there, once you get to the table, it's like imagine like Thanksgiving, like you put all this great stuff on the table and then you don't eat. You don't get to eat it. And that's what Tennessee did last season. It did all the stuff, spent all that time on the turkey, did all that stuff, you know, beat Bama, you know, beat LSU, did all these good things during those streaks, and then they sit down there around Thanksgiving to that delicious meal, and they just fumble the plate all over themselves. That's what they did late. That's what happened in Columbia. So the guys who are on that team are aware of that. They are very determined to not make that happen again. And if Joe Milton's good, maybe they won't. Maybe it won't happen. If Joe Milton is good, Tennessee is going to be very, very, very good. If Tennessee is going to be okay. And I know you could say that about any team, but the rest of the team, there's a couple of questions here or there, like there is with any team. But if Joe Milton is the player that Tennessee thinks he has the chance to be, then Tennessee is going to be very good. Because remember, 2 years ago, there was not a single person in that program, not one person, who thought it was wrong was named the starter over Hendon Hooker going into the season. They had seen 9 months of Hendon Hooker, and they had seen 6 weeks of Joe Milton, and they went, nope, it's Milton. It's got to be Milton. And everybody was on the same page about that. So then the season started. Milton tears a couple tendons in his ankle. Hooker comes in, lights up the world, and things look different. But Milton is always now. You talk to scouts about him, you'll never see a stronger arm, maybe at any level of the game, than he has. He doesn't know how far he can throw a football. He does not know because he's never tried. He just knows that he can throw it at least like 81 or 82 yards because he did that once while trying to complete a pass downfield. He's never really uncorked it. That's how ridiculous he is, and he's a good athlete too. So, and we know Heupel's offense is always going to be pretty good. They're always going to be in contention. So, if they're a little bit better in the secondary, and Milton's good, they're going to be very, very good.
Wes, a lot of people don't realize this. You had the South Carolina game, and obviously Hendon got hurt. Joe came in, led a drive kind of in garbage time. It gets lost on a lot of people because people talk about, Tennessee blew it with the South Carolina game or whatever. Vanderbilt came into that game the next week, having just beaten Florida and Kentucky back-to-back. Vandy's giving the Vols trouble. 56-0 in Nashville. And then, to make some other people out there in our audience happy, the Orange Bowl really wasn't that close. I mean, they beat Clemson good. Joe Milton, yes, but also the Tennessee defense. You shut Vandy out, you hold Clemson to 14 points. Did you think that maybe there was a turning point on that side of the ball, and then because Joe was the quarterback and did well, that's the reason maybe for very high expectations again this year?
Yeah, it's interesting because Tennessee's defense was an interesting story last season because one of the many subplots in that Carolina game was Jeremy Banks was not there. And he was a guy who, say what you will about having to worry about that kid every second that he's not on the field. When he was on the field, the kid, he was really important to that defense, and he was not there that week, and that you saw how important he was to that defense that week. But they were able to, and really quickly too, like that was a surprise deal. For him that he wasn't able to play in that game. So they were able to make more time in the bowl game and prepare without him, so they were better. But Tim Banks has been, I think, a pretty decent defense. He was a co-coordinator at Penn State when Heupel got the job at Tennessee, and he brought him down from College Station, from Happy Valley down there.
State College.
Yeah, whatever. The other one. And he's been a pretty good coordinator, despite not having a lot to work with. I mean, he's had Byron Young, who's a good player, a couple of DBs here and there who are decent players, Alontae Taylor, some other guys, but they've not had depth there. And playing defense at Tennessee, you need depth because that offense, right. It's like their scoring drives are like a Misfits album, like 208, 157, 149. Like that's what they do, right? They go boom, 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 boom. And so if they go 30 seconds, so you've got to have depth, and they have not had depth on defense. So some of that stuff's not maybe totally their fault, but they have kept the thing together defensively. For the most part, they've limited some big plays. They've done a couple good things, but they need to be better there. They've recruited well. They've gotten, in the past couple of years, four or 5-star types on the edge who are really big prospects. Had some really big time players there. They've gotten a couple good players out of the portal that they like. They should be okay. And Tim Banks and those guys, Willie Martinez, all those guys, they're everybody knows Rodney Garner, what kind of coach he is on the defensive line, and all the guys he's produced. So yeah, I mean they're gonna. I don't know that they're, as long as Heupel's somewhere, I don't know they're ever gonna be known for their defense. But all you got to do, if they're going to play offense the way they have been, man, just get 1 or 2 stops at half. You're winning games.
Well, you bring up some really interesting points because I think that people, you're right. Nobody thinks defense when they think in Tennessee right now because of Josh Heupel and that high-flying offense. They only gave up 30 points or more last year 3 times in 13 games. Carolina, of course, was one. Alabama was another, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Florida.
Florida got 33.
Florida 33, right?
Yeah, Anthony Richardson might be a first-round pick in some reasons because of that game. He was unbelievable. He and Spencer Rattler last year. The highlights are, I mean, the throws those two dudes made in those 2 games against Tennessee. Even like the 5 plays Tennessee tried to play defense, those guys still made the plays. It was unbelievable. I mean, those 2 guys put on a show last year against that defense.
So you kind of hit on this a minute ago, and because you're on a Gamecock affiliated program today, I will just ask you the big bold question, the big elephant in the room type question here. Mm-hmm. How heavily circled is that South Carolina game on September 30th for these guys?
It is not the Alabama game. It's not the Florida or Georgia game. It means more than any game other than those. It's kind of an interesting thing. Tennessee going to Columbia has not traditionally always been a problem for Tennessee, but every time Tennessee goes to Columbia late in the season and needs to win because they're competing for a championship, Tennessee fumbles the bag. Every time. It's happened like 3 times where Tennessee's gone to Cola late in the year. They've needed to get some stuff, and they've lost SEC East contention. They've lost college football playoff contention. They've lost all kinds of stuff going down there. And the way that happened, I mean, anytime you get the field stormed on you and stuff like that, that sticks with you. And I don't blame fans for doing it. Hell, I think it's fun. If you're in college and you beat like a top 5 or top 10 team, hell yeah, man, go on the field. Take the fine. Who cares? Be a fan. Be a fan. Do that. But that's the kind of thing that sticks with guys. Like I'm sure Bama will want to absolutely put it on Tennessee next season if it is capable of doing that because of what happened. So, yeah, it's a Neyland will be rocking that game. Neyland will be absolutely ready for blood. It will be one of those, I call them the sort of, you're going to feel it in the stands. You're going to feel like the Tennessee's not, like the coaches are going to say the right things about just wanting to win the game. The fans are going to want Tennessee to win that game by 100 points if it's possible. I don't know if it's possible. I think Carolina's pretty good, but they're going to want blood in that game.
Hey guys, two years ago, I thought Tennessee was going to win that game by 100 points in Knoxville.
That thing changed quickly, man. That game, it was like boom, 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 boom. It was
the infamous Jordan Birch second
pass.
Oh my God!
What? When you were you in the press box for that game, Wes?
Yes.
When Jordan Birch tossed that ball in the end zone, what were people saying up there?
Like one of those one of those when you're watching it, it's like you're watching like at Talladega when there's like 100 cars within like an inch of each other going 200 miles an hour and everybody's like like kind of clenching up, like getting that lemon booty, like you're kind of like that nervous, that anxiety. Yeah, it was like but have tried something.
It's like golden tea. Oh no, Peter.
Oh, yeah, golden tea. You're speaking Rick Barnes language there. Yeah, Tennessee has a golden tea machine in the basketball locker room that Rick Barnes says is for the players. It's for Rick Barnes.
It's not.
Rick Barnes loves
Rick Barnes. I almost guarantee that. But anyway, yeah, it's interesting. This series is interesting, Wes. The Gamecocks in Tennessee, and I have a ton of friends that are Vol fans, and we were talking about it this summer. I mean, it's like, so South Carolina won 3 in a row from 2010 to 12. Tennessee, unbelievably, especially in 13 and 14, those 2 games were unbelievable. They went 3 in a row. 16, the Gamecocks knock them out of the East. 17, they win in Knoxville. 18, you feel Tennessee's coming back because that wasn't a great Tennessee team, and they gave the Gamecocks all they want. Blown out in Neyland in 19, close one in 20 in the opener, destroyed them in 21. Look, 22.5-point favorites. Boom, here come the Gamecocks right back. Here's the thing, though, and I'll see what you think about this because you've been around Tennessee for a while and I've been around Carolina. If you think about it, this sets up pretty bad for the Gamecocks because of the styles of play. South Carolina's won 3 times at Neyland. Those scores have been, and 2 of them were Steve Spurrier as the head coach, 16-15, 14-3, and 15-9.
Yeah, I covered all 3 of those. I remember those. Those were some.
We're not getting scores like that.
They were close. Wouldn't say they were great watches, but
no.
Yeah, those were the old like NL Central 2-1 games like back in the day. Like, that was it's the style with which Tennessee plays. People know this. When that offense gets going, it's tough. What they do, and we'll see if they do, and eventually they move those hash marks in and they change the clock a little bit, because a lot of those rules, I'm not saying they're designed to stop offenses like Tennessee, but if you were to build rules for a place like Tennessee, that's how you would build them. That's what you would do. But I think what they do is, like, I've never seen in my career doing this a game where several times in the same game, Nick Saban defenses were not ready at the snap. And it happened throughout that game. So, every coach says it for a reason. You can't do what they do at the pace they do it with the athletes they do it in 1 week with your scout team. It's not possible. It is so different because everybody tries to go a little bit of tempo, right? Everybody tries to go a little bit of no huddle, but a lot of no huddles just to prevent substitutions. Like, Tennessee goes tempo for the sake of grinding you into dust. Like, they go hurry. Like, I don't even know how they get the play calls sometimes. It's nuts how fast they go. And when they get going, it seems like every other play is a 50, 60 yarder. Like, they hit you in a hurry. So when they do that, especially at Neyland, and that fires up their defense, they get a couple big plays, it can get from like a pretty close game to a laugher quickly. So that's what you have to do against Tennessee. Against Tennessee, you can't let them get out 21-0 on you. You just can't let that happen.
No, Missouri was coming back last year. I went to get a beer, took a phone call, 5 minutes tops. Come back in, it was like 29-24, and boom, 43-24. Yeah. And of course, the final was 66-24. Do you think Eli Drinkwitz?
If they could have scored 100, they would have, because Eli Drinkwitz likes to have some fun in the offseason with some quotes and stuff. And you'll never get guys like Heupel to admit anything about this publicly, but they remember that stuff. And with him making some jokes about probation and some of these other things and yada yada, if they could have put a hundy on him, they'd have put a hundo on him. If they could have, mark my words, they would. And even behind the scenes, they won't really talk about it, but it's the truth.
Tennessee scored 128 points scored 128 points last 2 against Mizzou.
Yeah, it was.
It's been bad.
And I think the rest of the league is pulling for them to score 128 against Mizzou this season in that game. Although
I think they have to go there again when it's like 10 degrees. It's uncomfortable. It's not fit for human beings for 3 months of the year.
Well, it's really a strange November for Tennessee, honestly, going to Missouri, and then Georgia, that second to last game, still just looks really weird. But that's when they're going to play it. But as it pertains to this series, and we'll let you run on this note here, Wes, the last 2 years, one team won by 25, the next team won by 25, and this was a 3 of the last 4 years decided by 20 or more points. Prior to that, 13 of 18 seasons, the game was decided 7 or less, and I think like 11 of those were decided by 3 or less. It was the closest series in the league, and then 3 of the last 4 years, it's changed. There's no doubt about that. We'd love to get you back on once things get rolling in the fall, and certainly look forward to these guys playing on September the 30th, and hopefully after a long week of media days, you find a way to get some sleep this weekend, because you know what's coming in just a couple of short weeks, my man.
Yeah, and I just left Omaha like 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, and I'll never forget walking out of the press box in Omaha that night, getting ready to get to the flight, the airport the next morning. One of Tennessee Sports Info guys looks at me, he's like, "Hey, I'll see you in just a couple of weeks at at Media Days," and I went, "You can go to hell," because we used to get like like at least a couple months in the summer where unless you were heavy on recruiting, it wasn't that bad. And now it's like you get like, by the time like the year and it hits the ground, it's the grind has started again. I love it. I love what we do. We have the best jobs in the world, but another couple weeks would have been nice. That's all I'm saying.
I get it. I understand exactly what you're saying. Summer will be over before you know it, and it'll be Missouri in November. So enjoy that trip.
Yes, can't wait. And they're probably still doing media outdoors, which again in Columbia, Missouri, in November is a real treat. It's a real treat.
Yeah, why are they in the SEC? Nobody still knows the answer.
Why are they in the SEC?
TV markets. That would be your answer.
Oh,
that's
is that what?
That's your answer.
There we go. Thank you, man. Have a wonderful weekend.
Good, guys.
There you go.
Thanks,
Wes
Wes.
Rucker with GoVols247.com. He's sensational at covering Tennessee.
Well, that guy, man, we hired Wes.
Got great beard game going as well. Got to hit a timeout. Hour one is in the books. David Cloninger up in just a couple of moments here on Inside the Gamecocks, the show powered by Electric Bikes of Charleston. The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and go Gamecocks.
Charleston Fitness Equipment is keeping South Carolina in shape. Clients have come from all over the Palmetto State to find that one piece of equipment that they enjoy that keeps them looking and feeling good. Whether it's a home rower, treadmill, elliptical, free weights, a home gym, or something else, Charleston Fitness Equipment keeps the mirror smiling back at you. Get in shape like the Gamecocks do. Visit charlestonfitnessequipment.com. Gamecock owned and operated and proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
If you're in the real estate market in the Low Country or even in the Midlands, please contact me, JB, with Coast to Coast Realty SC. You hear me and see me every day here on Inside the Gamecocks, and it would be an honor to earn your business. I've been around real estate my entire life, as it's somewhat of a family business. I work with an elite team of experts from loans to insurance to closing, and they make my clients and my life very easy. It really is elite. Coast to Coast Realty SC.com is where you can find our staff, and you can always reach out to me here as well. Go Gamecocks.
Coach O here, and when I'm not eating average jambalaya or celebrating endless summer in Destin, I like to eat pimento cheese straight off the bucket. And the only pimento cheese I like to eat is from Nana's Porch. It's award-winning. It'll melt in your mouth. It's good on a cracker. It's good in a bowl. It's good on a piece of bread. Also, don't forget Nana's Porch has a hell of a food truck. It's award-winning as well, and they're here for all of your catering needs. So get online, nanasporch.com. It's good. Coach O signing off. Endless summer. Go Tigers.
Just as your State Farm agent combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates, you can combine your home, auto, life, or small business insurance with Tony Pope State Farm Insurance today. And guess what you'll get? That's right, even more good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. In fact, Tony Pope State Farm is your go-to agent anywhere in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia for the service you deserve at the price you want. So try combining your home, life, auto, and or small business insurance today. Tony Pope State Farm has been in business for more than 30 years and can handle anything you need in the tri-state area. Once again, Tony Pope State Farm will help you mix and match perfectly. Call 843-851-2222 or visit tonypope.com today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Are you looking to buy a new home? Kevin O'Connell with Union Home Mortgage is a local mortgage expert and Gamecocks fan servicing North and South Carolina. Whether you're buying a home, building your dream home with new construction, or turning your equity into cash, UHM's world-class service will ensure you find the perfect mortgage to achieve your home ownership goals. Call Kevin at 803-906-0244 or visit UHM.com today. Union Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. Manager. In MLS 2229, LONMLS 1772182.
The Gamecocks, the show from the Signorama Studios. They're the preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics. Make sure you find Matt Vaughn and his team at Signorama.com in West Columbia. You can be anywhere in the great state of South Carolina, and they will do anything you need from a signing standpoint. Maybe you need your vehicle wrapped. You need a new sign for your business. You need a new sign on the outfield fence for your son. Maybe you're working with the high school to get the signs made for the football field. Whatever it is, Signorama, that's where you want to go. They are Gamecock owned and operated, and we are thrilled to do business with them. Matt Vaughn and his staff, their handprints are all over campus at South Carolina. Before we get David Cloninger in here, 6 All-SEC preseason selections for Gamecock football, and the preseason predictions from the media are also out. No shock here that Georgia is predicted to win the league with 265 votes on the east side, 2011 points overall. Let me just give it to you simply here. The predicted order of finish in the East: Georgia, Tennessee, and third are the Gamecocks, followed by Kentucky, Florida, Missouri, and Vanderbilt. So South Carolina, the media thinks, is probably going to have a pretty good season, picking them at third, which is a little bit different than that 5.5 win total presented by ESPN's FPI this week. Bama is predicted to win the West by the SEC media. It was tight, Phil. LSU a close second, followed by, how about this? I think JC mentioned it the other day, and he nailed it. Texas A&M, and then Ole Miss, Arkansas, Auburn, and Mississippi State, presumptively in a rebuild mode with the loss of Mike Leach. The overall champion for the league, predicted by the media, is Georgia, followed by Alabama, LSU, and then Tennessee. But you'll never believe who got the 5th most votes in the league. That would be none other than Clark Lee's Vanderbilt Commodores. There were 5 credentialed media members that gave the Commodores a vote to win the conference this year. Arkansas and Auburn each received a pair of votes. A&M, Mississippi State, and the South Carolina Gamecocks all got 1 vote in Nashville this week. The All-SEC preseason media days teams have been selected as well. Juice Wells represents the Gamecocks on the All-SEC second team on offense. Trey Knox was selected All-SEC third team on offense. On defense, Carolina is represented by Tonka Hemingway on the third team. That is 3 of their representatives. And then they are also represented by Kai Kroger as the first team punter. And on the third team, South Carolina received kicking specialist Mitch Jeter and all-purpose back to Carry-On Joyner. So those are the 6 selections that will represent South Carolina on paper before the season gets going.
So who was selected? Did you say Kai was first team, right?
First team, correct. Yeah.
Mitch was third?
Yes.
Do they know Mitch didn't miss a field goal last year?
These are probably the same guys that voted for Vanderbilt to win the league.
All right, so that's number 1. Who were the 2 receivers in front of Juice?
The first team is Malik Neighbors at LSU, which I understand, and Ladd McConkey out of Georgia.
Okay. I like Lad
Oh.
McConkey.
Yeah,
I like
Lad. Nothing wrong with Lad.
I'd take Juice Wells over him.
I would.
Yeah.
I'm sure most
same.
people with a brain would as well.
Do they not do long snapper? Is there not a?
Hunter Rogers.
Yeah,
man.
Hunter Rogers ought to be that. Yeah,
He caught a
That dude's-
touchdown last year, by the way.
Yeah. Hey,
Right.
So
On
Florida
the
got
third
picked.
read, by the way. Did you hear about how
Florida
that play
got picked
developed?
over Kentucky, Missouri, and Vanderbilt. Florida's 4th.
Mm-hmm.
No. Kentucky received is predicted 4th in the league, followed by Florida, Missouri, and
Missouri.
Vanderbilt.
Okay. All right, that makes more sense. I was gonna say I wouldn't pick Kentucky behind Florida. I mean, I'd go back and forth between Kentucky and the Gamecocks, to be honest. Just looking at them on paper. I mean, I know that game's in Columbia and late in the year. I think South Carolina will win it and beat the Wildcats for the second straight time. I mean, I hope I'm not talking out my butt there, but on paper, they've got a good team coming back. You know, they have to fix some things too. But that's interesting that nobody's high on Auburn.
Yeah,
and Ole Miss, they are high on Ole Miss, though.
Yeah, 4th, followed by Arkansas. I actually don't disagree at all with the rankings in the West. I am one who would pick Alabama to win the division had I been there and voted, and followed by LSU. And I'm with you, JC. I think A&M will finish 3rd, and I think will finish 4th. And I don't know. I don't know that Mississippi State will finish dead last in the West. I actually might fight against that a little bit, but
that's the thing. It's hard to pick a last place team in that division.
it is.
You know, our default in the East is Vandy. You know, which Vandy may not finish last. You know?
Can I say that I don't think Vandy will finish last in the East?
Florida
or Missouri. I know people are high on Missouri. I know people are high on Missouri because of their defense. I get that. I understand that, but I just don't think they will. I think that there's some Lou Holtz type magic maybe in that Vanderbilt year 2 under Clark Lee.
I'm telling you this. Here's a team to look out for that could finish last in the East, and nobody will see it coming. Kentucky.
You think? I don't know.
Well, let me tell you. What if Devin Leary gets hurt?
I was going to say if Leary goes down potentially, or if
and what if their defense isn't quite as good?
Good, yeah. Mm-hmm.
If their defense isn't quite as good, I
I'm
don't know.
buying into the whole since Liam Cohen's second coming is going to just raise this team back up to 10 wins. I'm not buying that narrative.
They weren't all that good when he was there.
No, they had the ball, and that was it.
Grind it out, do whatever. I mean, I didn't think everybody's like, oh my God, Liam Cohen's coming back. I mean, you think Hal Mummy was coming back to run the air raid,
right? Yeah.
I just don't. I think at some point Kentucky's going to have the inevitable down year. And same reason I think Ole Miss can finish last in the West.
Yeah,
and everybody, I think we get in habits where we just assume things about coaches.
Sure,
I'm with you. Lane's a great offensive mind and he rocks and rolls or whatever, and so he'll be fine. But those programs, South Carolina included, and then everybody outside of a certain group of programs, I mean, they have their inevitable down season. So.
Well,
Beamer,
to your point,
by the way, tied for using the word excited. 15 times he said excited. Jimbo Fisher was tied with him at 15.
Shane, by the way, one of us might need to send him a text and say, you did shave that opening statement, but Shane, I mean, you're still in the top third, man. You gotta shut the trap a little bit and let these guys ask you some questions. They had some good stuff, do you think you could be a head coach since you haven't been an offensive coordinator? That was a killer question. Yeah. I'm glad that guy's been around for the last 3 years. What a moron. Yeah. I mean, this is just ridiculously stupid, but actually all right, JC. So I'll, unlike you, Mad Dog here on your bubble wrap comments yesterday, I'll actually go along with you on the Kentucky stuff. Just circling 1 week. if they get beat at Vanderbilt on September the 23rd, then I think that would be a real possibility. So I'm gonna kick the can down the road and cheat a little bit here and say if they walk into Nashville and the Doors take care of them, then I could certainly see that happening. Is that cool? Is that fair? It's fair, right?
That'd be a second year in a row. But see, here's the problem, and this is one of the things I don't like about the portal. Vanderbilt's best player on offense was their running back last year, and guess where he's playing this year?
Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky.
Yeah, which is
crazy. But here's my thing. Kentucky was not very good on the offensive line last year. I don't know how much better they will be. I like Devin Leary a lot. I love the receivers they got. I like their backs. At some point, they're going to take a dip on defense. It hasn't always just been
Wait a second. The most uses of the word excited is, like you mentioned, is Shane. Of course, he's tied with Jimbo Fisher.
But Jimbo's tied. I'm like,
hey, but who are the two guys that only use that word once? Kirby and Saban.
Nothing exciting about it. Just got to get to work.
Oh man. And Napier only used it twice. No crap. Well, I was watching my grass grow the other day, and I was also watching the paint dry, and that's when I decided that I would watch my neighbor's cat. Like, what are you talking about, dude?
Mama always said to watch the cat while I'm watching my grass grow. Because sometimes the cat likes to take a pee.
I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt you at all, JC.
Scratch me in the face.
I saw that graphic and I started laughing. The fact that it was, Saban and Kirby only used it one time.
One time. Saban was probably in reference to his Italian vacation too. It probably wasn't even about the program.
He probably said I wasn't excited. I wasn't excited about going.
It's excited about
like I said, the goat had a comic timing miscue in his opener, but
we got DC in. Let's bring
good.
Good. David, he's on the road.
Big watch. By the way, no, I don't think Kentucky's better than South Carolina. I think the teams on paper. I need to dig into Kentucky's defense. I think they're probably pretty even, but since the game's in Columbia, I'd go
easy. Phil, we got to get an updated picture of Cloninger. That's his college.
Is that his high school graduation?
I love it. I'm not changing it. No,
I would never change it. I would never change this.
That picture was taken in.
Oh, we missed the story. Your cell phone.
He's on I-40.
We did get him in the gorge.
2003. It's only.
I heard 2003.
2003.
Can you hear me now?
20 years old.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. We're back.
All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, that picture was taken in 2003. So it's only 20 years old. It's not that bad. But, I don't photograph well. I've got a face made for radio. That's the only picture that actually got the smirk right. So
it's amazing. I love that picture. It's I would never ever change it ever.
No, man, I think I lifted it off the Twitter profile. So
still in the goatee there, had the red still on the goat there. That was pretty good times, So.
I dig it.
Apologies for joining late, but of course the SEC had to release the all-conference team right as the show was about to start.
Oh yeah.
So I just crossed the state line and pulled off at that rest area right above Landrum.
Yep.
And had to get that up for the paper. So I'm back on the road toward Columbia, and hey, third in the East. I think that's about what was expected. But just to go ahead and say it. Okay, we only got to vote for 2 wide receivers per team. So I can understand why Juice Wells slipped a second. I get it. But there were 4 defensive back spots per team. Not safety or corner, just defensive back. So that's 12 spots. Nick Emanwari's not one of those? Because I know I voted in there. But apparently others just ignored a freshman All-American season.
They're like, he's not. He ain't very good.
Sophomore slump coming.
I think the easiest way to summarize this is there were also 5 people who voted for Vanderbilt to win the league. So I'm just, I mean, come on. You know, there's people like David
Get a little
Cloninger
ahead of
that are there
themselves
doing
out of
their
that
job.
5-7 season.
Listen, Clark Lee is winning over the hearts and minds of the media because there was only one guy last year that did it.
I mean, it's like, hey, give them credit because they won some games, broke a long losing streak. They beat a pretty good Kentucky team, but obviously a flawed Kentucky team that wasn't worth the hype last year. And then they beat Florida, which I know South Carolina can't say nothing about, but Florida was a bad team last year. So, I mean, okay, good for Vandy, but it's like, come on now, fellas. So, okay, whatever. You know, I'm done with the soapbox. Preseason rankings are kind of like verbal commitments from recruits, so they don't mean a whole heck of a lot.
Right.
Pretty interesting. Yeah.
Well,
so who did you have as? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
Sorry, Jamie.
I was about to get into.
Who did you have as last in the West? I think this is an interesting question. Who finishes last in the West?
Actually, as I was doing it, JC, and just looking at the teams and kind of what they had, I was like, you know, I just can't really trust that Arkansas is going to keep doing what they're doing, although they've got some skill position guys. But still, I was like, I think they've got enough to finish out of last. So I picked Auburn.
Okay.
So I was like,
I love it.
I just don't see that there's a whole lot there that you can trust. And I know Hugh's going to come in and revamp the offense and all that, but it's like, I mean, that division is extremely tough.
I was higher on Auburn than most, and the freeze factor, but also I thought after they got rid of Boring McBoringson, probably the most boring head coach in the history of the recent SEC, Brian Harsin.
Over Napier?
I thought, well, we'll see what Napier ultimately becomes, but Brian Harsin's not even from the South. Yeah. Okay, so that's a big difference. When they got rid of him, I thought Auburn played good ball. I mean, they beat A&M. I think they came back against Mississippi State. I'm with you. I don't know what they really have on their roster. So I think that's a good pick. I think this is the year Ole Miss and maybe Kentucky both have inevitable dip years because I think we're used to those teams being pretty solid under Kiffin and Stoops, and I'm just that's kind of my gut feeling. But I don't know. That's a great question though, as far as who's going to finish last in the West. That's one I struggle with every single season.
Oh, sure, man. I mean, with Ole Miss, you can see, maybe that will happen, that they've had some really good seasons, but it's kind of regressed since they had that 10-win year in year two. But, man, they got Judkins at running back.
Mm-hmm.
That guy ran for 1,500 last year. I'm like, I think they're going to be okay. I mean, most of the time. But, again, it is a very tough division. I mean, honestly, I was struggling with is it automatic that Alabama's going to win? LSU's got a really good team, and they won the West last year. So it was close. I flip-flopped it a couple of times, but I did end up going with the Tide to win the West, mostly because of this. Nick Saban's had the audacity to lose 4 games in 2 years, and he's hearing now, has Nick lost his touch?
Yep,
he's going to be like, okay, yeah. We're going to let the old man show you a few things again. So, Georgia versus Alabama for the championship. I think that's what most everybody picked. And I picked South Carolina third in the East as well behind Tennessee. A lot just because Tennessee game's on the road. And, man, those guys are looking forward to it. So, but we'll see how it goes. Got to go play the games. And they always mention that only 9 times in 31 years has the media got it right. But of those 9 times, 5 of them have come in the last 9 years. So the media's on a bit of a hot streak in picking the champ.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah,
nice.
There you go. That's a nice little. See, you got to always dive deeper into the numbers, don't you, DC? You can't just.
Yeah, man. Numbers, damn numbers, or numbers, and damn statistics. However that expression goes.
What, David? Spending the week in Nashville as you did for SEC Media Days, specifically with the Gamecocks here, and specifically with Spencer Rattler. What give us a feel of the room and what the rest of the league thinks about the Gamecock signal caller.
Well, a lot of them, says like, well, why wasn't he here last year? And it was like, look, man, I mean, he hadn't thrown a football in over a year at that time. I think that they wanted to take guys that had been in the program, nothing against him, but he hadn't yet earned it. So everybody was talking about the final 2 regular season games. And he didn't play bad in the Gator Bowl, but those 2 regular season games were terrific. And it's like, yeah, I mean, this guy, he's going to be an NFL guy, and he's one of the top guys in the conference. I mean, yeah, he is. Handles himself very confidently, like he always does. But, there were some, like myself, who said you can't just ignore the 10 games before those last 2 regular season games. Okay? So it was like, yeah, I mean, it's one of those, which Spencer Rattler are we going to see? Now, he carried himself well. He presented himself well, said all the right things. He was confident without being cocky. That rattlesnake pendant was excellent. I mean, that was a really cool looking thing. And, he just sat up there and said, yeah, I mean, we know what we're doing. We're confident in our offense. I love all my receivers. They all came out and worked with me. I asked him specifically about, the running game's got a lot of questions. How much more does that put on your plate? And he's like, it does, but we're confident those guys will do it. I mean, because, as you guys know, the top running back's probably going to be Decarrion, right? Well, I mean, he knows Decarrion. And Decarrion, if you need experience, there's the guy right there. He's 23 years old. He's in his 6th season. So it's like, yeah, he feels like it's going to be all well done, and he knows that there's a lot on him to go out there and play well from the start. But as he said over the summer a couple of times, like, yeah, I know my numbers weren't what they were supposed to be, but some of those, I'm like, okay, yeah, you threw some bad picks, but some of them were also not completely your fault.
What do you think about his comments about the Florida game and all the personnel groupings and the confusion and stuff like that? That's my first question. Second question, having covered sports for the Charleston Post Courier, you've covered Decarrion Joyner his whole career and stuff. You know him well. What are your thoughts about running back maybe being his best position now that he's 230? You just kind of answer those 2 things for me.
Oh, sure, man. Well, I'll take the second part first. I mean, I think a lot of folks who watched him in high school, of course, wowed at his ability to play quarterback. And the guy threw for over 10,000 yards in high school, won Mr. Football, won a state title. He could do it. But it was like, well, next level is running back maybe his best position. I think a lot of folks use the old standby of saying, quarterback in high school, it's usually just your best athlete on the team, and you're going to put him at QB. Not because he's going to be necessarily a QB the next level. But I think that, the kind of, I guess, the safety net there is you always put him at DB in college. Say, he's QB in high school, we'll make him a defensive back here. I think he could have been a pretty good running back, maybe a bit tall for the position, but still there was something there you could make it work. But they said, hey, he's going to be a quarterback. And obviously, as you guys saw, they needed him to play quarterback. So I don't think it will be as big of an adjustment as people might think for Decarrion. He knows what he's doing. He's athletic. He's grown into his body. He knows how to do it. It's just going to be the production, which is not entirely up to him. That's going to be the question. Can the line open the holes? Can they keep the heat off of that? Can he find his way to get through those spaces that other running backs can? And, I know he's going to give everything he has to do it. And it may take him a little while, but I think he'll succeed. As for the first part, with Spencer talking about the personnel groupings, I mean, that was the game that drew the line in the sand. I asked him, I still haven't heard a great answer. What exactly happened in between Florida and Tennessee? What happened in offensive meetings? What happened in team meetings? And no one will say. It's just kind of like, yeah, we just weren't playing our best. And we played our best against Tennessee. Now, there had to be something, as in we're not doing this anymore. We're going to simplify this offense, and we're going to do that. And, I mean, okay, you're going to say personnel groupings were bad against Florida. That's why you couldn't move the ball. All right, whatever. I saw the same personnel groupings in the second half as I did in the first, and they were moving the ball. They just couldn't hold on to it. So maybe it was a case of like, all right, he's going to blame somebody, but you kind of tiptoe up to the line of saying it's this guy's fault, and then you back off. What good is it to say now?
I think they were confused. I think that was a team that needed to just go. That's an offense that, with Rattler and everybody, that needs to just go play. Sometimes, and I'm 99% sure they instead of scripting 45 plays and 20 of them that they'd never run before, they only carried about 12 plays into that game and sort of made a little simple. But I don't know who. That's one of the great mysteries, right? Right. So
Yeah, I mean, it's another one of those things. While we're all sitting there mid-season, and Satterfield's up there, man. I love Jaheim Bell. I think he's the best player in the world. I want to get him the ball 30 times a game. I'm like, great. Why don't you? It's not just not getting him the ball. He ain't even on the field, man. So what's going on here? And
they played Georgia. They played Georgia and didn't target Juice Wells the whole game.
Yeah.
Against Georgia.
Don't pee on my back and tell me it's raining. It's like, come on, buddy. I mean, you got to work with me here. Saying you want to get him the ball and then he's not even on the field? Like, all right.
Yeah.
That's an interesting choice.
I'm with you. And I think I think we actually heard a couple of folks this week from outside of the program speaking about Dowell Loggins. One of them who's very enthusiastic is a major media member, Greg McElroy, who from time to time he'll pop on TV and, occasionally pick South Carolina to win a national championship. And then that doesn't really work out like he did back in 2014. But to his point, though, I mean, the guy did spend time in the league and he understands it. And all the points that you and JC just brought up here, DC, I'm not sure if you've spoken to anybody in Nashville this week about Dowell taking over as the offensive coordinator. But I think that's one of the most interesting things that we're all going to be watching early in the season is, does South Carolina have a play caller like Coach Loggins who has identified the best players on the team and has found ways to get them the football?
Well, that's a question. And I did talk to somebody, the venerable Bob Holt for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, an institution, Arkansas, great guy, great writer and reporter. He was like, yeah, man, how you and Dowell getting along? I'm like, well, I still haven't had a sit down with him. I'm hoping to get that this week. But so far, he seems good. And he was always a stand-up guy at Arkansas as a player and then as an assistant coach. And, of course, he mentions, Dowell came in knowing that he was probably never going to make it to the next level as an NFL player. And he barely made it as a college player, but still managed to stand out playing 50 games. But he said, I always came in to Arkansas to be a college coach. That's what I wanted to do. I just didn't think the NFL was for me, but then obviously the path worked out. So he knows, it's like the guy knows offense. You gave him a lot to work with in this first year. The main thing though is that we're all going to have to take a step back every game, especially early, and say, all right, we got to judge this not only on play calling production, but on something that Dowell had nothing to do with, which is hardly any running back depth.
Right.
So if that's going to be the problem, it's like, well, it's a bad situation. Like, hey, here's your first college offense, and you don't really have a running game. If they keep trying to run their heads into a brick wall and it's not working, okay, you got to switch it up. But you can't just throw it every time. So how do you marry that? I mean, how do you have, I guess it's, if you count DeCarrion as a scholarship running back now, you have 5. Okay, great. But how are you going to do it? Is it 10 carries by committee? How's that going to work? I mean, that's really difficult to navigate. So, but what we all know, fellas, you can't just sit back here and throw it every down. You have to be able to run the ball sometimes, and that's going to be the biggest hurdle for Dowell Loggins' first collegiate offense. I mean, I think he's up for the challenge, and he knows what he's going to do, but it's really, really tough to do it knowing you don't have a dependable RB to lean on.
Guys, something that's been lost, I think, in a lot of this preseason conversation with the Gamecocks, I'm sure it'll come up more in August, but think about for a second, collectively, we can all use our minds here and get something out of them. Think about how much collegiate experience South Carolina has on the offensive side of the football from their playmakers. You think about Rattler and DeCarrion Joyner. That's a combined 10 years in college football. You think about Trey Knox. That's a combined 15 years in college football. You think about Josh Simon. There's 20. You think about Xavier Legette. There's 24. I mean, you think about Juice Wells. There's 28. You're talking about the best players on the offensive side of the football have been playing college football for 30-plus years. That's got to mean something, doesn't it, guys?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think you could ever replace experience. Fellas, I mean, what do y'all think?
No. Well, no.
Well,
actually,
100%.
Yeah. I guess what I'm getting at here is when you put that much, we all know in anything in life, you do best what you do often. And these guys have been in the college game for a long time. And I'm, thinking about this from a little bit of an optimistic point of view here. Even if you run into some issues this year, which they're going to, everybody does. Carolina's going to run into issues. You bring in a guy with the experience of calling plays like Dowell Loggins, understanding what it takes to be an NFL player, but also understanding what it takes to be a collegiate player. And then all these guys who understand the college game, you'd like to think that group of people can work out the kinks easier than if they were much younger. I didn't even mention, by the way, Amarian Brown, who's been in college for 4 years as well.
Yeah. Well, I think,
I agree, Jamie. And the fact is, go ahead.
No, go ahead, David. Go ahead, David.
DC, can you hear us?
I like it. Standoff.
Yeah,
right, cool.
Going through a bit of a dead spot here. I'm passing right by Dorman University. So.
Yeah, you're about to hit the big city of Emery and Pauline, and they don't have any cell phone service or running water out there.
I'm passing by Dorman, so that the signal's going out kind of like their football team does every year.
A shot at the Cavaliers. Oh my!
As a veteran of the I-85 wars back in the day when Northwestern had to come up here, it's like, man, we beat you guys hand running 30 years in a row. Come on now.
Jeez, dude, Dorman's been pretty good since the mid '90s, but man, they used to suck terribly. They were Spartan High was good. Burns was a little older school. Woodruff was good, but Dorman was just bad, dude.
Does Dorman and Northwestern, do they play each other this year?
No. I mean, once they realigned the regions and kind of lined up Northwestern with not only the area schools around York County, but some of the northernmost schools in Richland County, River Bluff, and Spring Valley, that's how they've done the region. So it's like you got to play everybody there. And, of course, now it's been like, well, yeah, I mean, you guys are 4A, but South Point's still 5A, but you want to play them because it's a city school. And Rock Hill's 4A, so, of course, and they're in the region, so you got to play them. But, man, I mean, Fort Mill, when I'm growing up, little, tiny part of the town, just a back way on the way to Charlotte. That's all it was. Now Fort Mill's got 3 high schools, and 2 of them are 5A. So,
hey, David, do you remember Region 2 4A?
Oh.
It was Rock Hill, Northwestern, Gaffney, Spartanburg, Dorman, Burns, and then drum roll, please, the mighty Boiling Springs Bulldogs.
Oh,
who I know have produced 2 South Carolina quarterbacks that were pretty damn good. However, they're terrible still in Spartanburg County. But man, that was a strong region.
Absolutely, man. I've still got in my scrapbook ticket stubs from Northwestern's 1989 state championship season. All the games, I went to every one, and all those teams were there, either home or away. So that year, Gaffney came to District 3 in Rock Hill. But I've been to the reservation for other games, and oh man, that's an experience that everybody needs to go through.
I scored a touchdown at the reservation. I scored my only touchdown of my football career. It was in middle school, but it was at the reservation.
That ball, Petey.
I remember 98 bootleg pass, man, and the quarterback is actually the coach at Burns for a while. My quarterback's coach at Burns and at Clover for a while. Giant. Brian Lane, but that was fun.
I remember Coach Lane at Clover.
Yeah, Brian Lane.
There, back when I was working for the Rock Hill team, and Chet Turner was the head coach. They ran that old triple wing.
Yeah,
I won a state championship with that. I couldn't believe it. It's like, this is Clover's first boys state championship in school history. I'm like, I'm not surprised.
Y'all gonna make me miss high school football back home, man.
Oh God, we gotta stop. JC's gonna start crying.
I'm gonna get nostalgic.
Yeah, that's right. Oh no.
Hey man, we've only got about 3 weeks until the season opener.
That's right.
I know it's about jamboree time here in a couple of weeks, right?
Check it out, man. I mean, Northwestern versus Providence Day in the Panther Stadium on a Saturday, August 18th, and tickets are $5 a piece.
That's nice.
Nobody sells a ticket. Come on out there. I mean, I'm hoping when the practice schedule comes out, I'm like, Shane, don't you schedule no scrimmage or nothing else I got to be at that day.
But
I got to go up and see my boys play.
That's when they're gonna scrimmage. I guarantee you. That's Saturday the 11th and Saturday the 18th.
But it's like, yeah, but will we have any availability afterwards? That's the key question.
Yeah, that's good. That's when you hope for no availability. So
that's when that's right. Well, DC, safe travels back home. I'm sorry to interrupt you and JC's 1990 high school football love fest, but we'll do it again.
Absolutely. Give me a call whenever you guys want to.
Oh, we will. We'll get you back real soon. Probably next week.
Sounds good, fellas. Appreciate you.
Big up, brother.
Dave Cloninger with the Post and Courier. He is the best in the business. Along I-26 headed back to Columbia, South Carolina. All right, we got to take a timeout. We are way past due for that. We are painted garnet and black by a couple of painters. LetMePaintSomething.com. Hey, Tristan, if you're watching, we love you, man. You're the man. Be right back. Golfers and wannabe golfers, former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor is now a full-time golf instructor in the Midlands of South Carolina. In-person golf lessons are held at the Country Club of Lexington. Half-hour, on course 9 or 18 holes. And if you're outside of South Carolina, Meredith conducts virtual lessons. Just send in your golf swing for analysis. Gift cards are available for in-person 1-hour lessons. Connect on Twitter @MayorTaylor and find her online at McKellarEnterprises.org. Her email is on the website. Schedule your next lesson today with Meredith Taylor, former Gamecock golfer.
Hey, man, are you sick and tired of your business computer guy?
Yes, he takes forever to call me back and doesn't always respond to the requests.
Yeah, same here. I'm paying him good money. I constantly have issues, and I'm worried he's not backing up my network and securing it properly.
You know what, Phil? Let's ask Stone Blanton.
Hey, JC and Phil, if you want a solution to your IT problems, give Heritage Digital a call. Our boy Matt Odom has a low-cost, one-price solution that will get you running right. Call 843-699-1001 or heritagedigital.com and ask for Matt. He will hook you up today and tell them Stone sent you.
Electric Bikes of Charleston offers the most fun you'll ever have on two wheels. Magnum, Velotric, Aventon bikes, and more. And they sell to consumers all across the state and offer outstanding warranties and service after the sale. 5 levels of pedal assist plus a throttle help you handle the southern heat better, but still get great exercise. Bikes are available all ages and sizes. ElectricBikesCharleston.com or stop into their store in Mount Pleasant. Electric Bikes of Charleston, powering Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Charleston! Electric Bikes in Charleston! Electric Bikes in Charleston! Electric Bikes in Charleston! Electric Bikes in Charleston!
Hey Gamecock fans, it's Evan Stone from Gamecock Baseball. A couple of painters paint the show garnet and black every day and get the job done right at a fair cost. Go to LetMePaintSomething.com for information and an estimate. Go Cox.
You heard Evan Stone, Gamecock fans. 10% off for military repeat customers or mention the show. Interior, exterior painting, fencing, cabinet staining, concrete painting, popcorn ceiling removal, and more. 803-522-6832. LetMePaintSomething.com.
If you're in the upstate of South Carolina and are in need of residential real estate services, Cindy Bass Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane is for you. Ask her about the Village at Creekside, all of her listings in my hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina, right there on Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a lifelong Gamecock fan. And many of our listeners have already bought homes from her and been 100% satisfied with the detail and care she uses. Cindy Searfoss, 864-414-5271, Caldwell Banker Kane in the upstate for your real estate needs.
Building your dream home is often just that, a dream, and sometimes a nightmare. But at the Barndo Company, they commit to quality and build without sacrifice. Customization, open floor plans, limitless flooring options, maintenance-free and easy installation perks, and affordability are just a few reasons why they've been named one of the best builders in the U.S. Believe in your dreams. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barndo Company, Gamecock owned, Gamecock operated. The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and go Gamecocks. This leaderboard sucks.
All right.
No, like Brian. I mean, come on, guys. Come on, Rory. Come on, Jordan.
I
mean, come on. Hats off, by the way, to my man Derek Scott, because I know every year he does not sleep during this entire week. This is his favorite sporting event in the world, the Open Championship.
Is it really? Oh.
It is. I texted him this morning. I said, when's the last time you slept? He said, I've actually been on the road for corporate meetings, and so I've had to listen to the large majority of it. So, but he won't be this weekend. So Derek Scott will be up all hours of the night watching the Open Championship. So feel free to, if you're awake at 3-4 in the morning, shoot him a text. He'll probably respond, and if he doesn't, it's because he doesn't like you. JC, you were on with Bill King in Nashville earlier this week, and one of the questions that he asked you, I actually used to ask the same question on ESPN, but I asked it a little bit differently. Who's the out of nowhere guy? In my mind just used to be referred to as who's someone we're not talking about, but we will be talking about by the middle of the season. And so you posted it on this website this morning called thebigspur.com. And it's
I feel awful. It's a terrible take.
Pretty good website, by the way. It is it is pretty bad because Trey Knox was selected as a preseason all SEC.
Shake my head.
So I'm not sure that he's coming out of nowhere.
He's pretty much over.
Hey, dude, Arkansas is the middle of damn nowhere. You ever been out there? He went more literal than he did figurative here.
Phil, you hadn't eaten until you've been to the Catfish Hole in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
That sounds
the
like
Catfish Hole.
I've heard that before.
That sounds
is
like
pretty solid. Yeah, Bo, you'd love it. It makes Blue Bay seafood. It puts it to shame.
But to give you credit, though,
that's not hard.
Let me give you some credit now. All right, so we broke, the old coaching philosophy here. Let me break you down and build you back up. Well, that was pretty horrendous. Not as horrendous as the whole bubble wrap thing, but pretty horrendous. You also mentioned two names that would be my two names. And I bet it won't be a shocker because I've been saying Josh Simon since January. But Josh Simon is my out of nowhere guy on offense. And then on defense, it is O'Donnell Fortune.
Yeah, I think O'Donnell, and we both got it from contacts / sources during Gator Bowl practice, Jamie, that, this guy was making some things happen. Lo and behold, it came out in the game, not only with a 100-yard pick six. I thought he played pretty good defense the whole day. Everybody's been high on him. The old staff, the new staff, everybody. And I think that sometimes guys take a little while. Darius Rush and Cam Smith, the two guys that just got drafted, they were not instant superstars. Anybody here remember Cam Smith redshirted his first year?
Right.
Anybody here remember Cam Smith's first game? Tennessee?
Yeah.
Oh, he got beat on a 9 round. Then let the ball hit him in the leg.
Hit him in,
gosh,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And was lost until the Missouri game when it was kind of thrown into the water, and lo and behold, he'd gotten better. I don't even think any of us thought Darius Rush would ever play until Beamer got here in the 2021 opener, right?
Sure.
And so sometimes guys take a little while, and O'Donnell has always been solid. He's been behind better players, and he's taken a while. So I'm with you there. The reason I thought Josh Simon is, Trey Knox is automatically going to get a lot of the attention. And number one, it's because a lot of people listen to our show, and Trey Biddy sat here in the preseason last year, Phil, and he was a member of the Trey Knox fan club, big time. Number two, he's coming from an SEC program. Number three, he's a 4-star recruit. Josh Simon was a 2-star recruit. Locally, nobody found. Goes to Western Kentucky, lights it up, was a Mackey Award winner. Then his stats go down a little bit, and there's a reason for that I'll get to in a second. But Josh Simon's really, really good.
Really good.
I think because of Knox, he kind of, and you're like, he kind of gets overshadowed a little bit. And I'm gonna tell you this right now from interacting with the guy, he's one of the great, but they're both great kids.
Yep.
But Josh, he's got a little competitive streak in him, man. He doesn't like the Trey Knox talk. He doesn't like it. I mean, you can tell when you're sitting there talking about dynamic duo. It's like, man, I'm going to go get it. That competition between those two, and they're both going to play a lot, obviously. I think it's going to be.
They're going to be on the field at the same time.
And I think, too, people don't understand in the type of offense Western Kentucky ran while Josh was there, it's a pure air raid, Mike Leach, 5 wide, boom, boom, boom. They rarely play a tight end, So for a tight end to break into the rotation and catch, 9 touchdown passes like he did, that's pretty salty. I mean, he may not have 70 catches in a year, but you're in a freaking air raid and you're a tight end,
Yeah.
So I think that I think that would be kind of my sleeper if you're not going to go with a Joyner or a Mario Anderson or so Eddie Lewis, somebody like that.
Guys, I can tell you now, you're going to look out there when it's 4 wide, and very often are you going to see Juice, Leggett, Simon, and Knox. Not in those guys traditionally lined up as tight ends. They'll be lined up out wide. And I just tell you, you're going to see it. And it's going to be scary. And so if you're clicking on offense and you're Spencer Rattler, not only are you going to, not only going to have your primary guy and then all your checkdowns, you will also, guys, and we talk about this all the time, who's your safety valve? Well, you've got 4 of them. You have 4 safety valves. So as long as you throw it to the guy that's not triple teamed, there's a good chance it's going to get caught. And as long as you get time to throw it.
And how are you going to – all right, so here's the thing. Let's assume that this very veteran, old offensive line, they all play their best football. Tackle isn't as much of an issue. They stay healthy, whatever, knock on wood. And so they're able to block a little better, right? And I think a lot of their blocking in the run game is going to naturally be better because you're not asking your tackle to pull like the Rams. Nobody noticed that, did they? I think it's going to be much more of a straightforward blocking scheme, and Lonnie Teasley and Dowell are on the same page with that. So let's assume they do. Okay, so you're giving Spencer Rattler time. All right, so you got Juice Wells out there. If you don't do something about Juice Wells, he's going to kill you, right? So you got to do something about it.
He's already said that.
Well, yeah. I mean, so who else? All right, so we're gonna bracket Juice. Well, what does that leave open? Does that leave Trey Knox open? Does that leave a Josh Simon open? Does that leave Xavier Leggett, who is sort of a freak, open?
Does that leave
How about a Mario
Joyner?
Brown who can house it? Joyner out of the backfield.
Yeah, what I love is that it's going to force, a linebacker to try to cover one of those 4 guys that JB just rattled off.
I don't.
Good luck with that.
I'm not sure how you play zone when you have all these guys on the field at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
that's it. I mean, and you put Joyner in the backfield, and then you don't know what the hell's about to be. We're done.
Here's the thing, too. I think Dowell. I don't know, man. Sometimes I'm sure Marcus Satterfield watched film of the opposing team.
Well, yes.
Although at times he said he didn't.
No, he did.
I don't know.
Regardless of what Twitter would say, he did. But
No, he said it one time. He's like, I don't really even watch what the other team's doing. What?
Yeah.
I mean, so anyway, I don't know what he meant by that, but he said a lot of crazy stuff. Maybe he was just trying to kind of, super psych them out. But you don't get jobs in it. You don't keep your job in the NFL. You don't get jobs in the NFL if you're not a film idiot, film room all day.
Right. And understand.
And so that's the key when they're disguising coverages or getting in a zone. And that was one of the things Steve Spurrier and actually, quite frankly, G.A. Mangus was really good at too. And quite frankly, Mike Bobo was really good at is when they go to a zone, they pick the spots and they had something for everything like that. And so that to me, attacking that zone is going to be kind of a play calling type of thing. And I do think some teams will play a big soft zone against South Carolina if the Gamecocks struggle to run the football, because they're just going to be like, we're just going to limit your passing plays. And then you got to throw over the top of it or hope somebody misses a tackle and to get a big play. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to seeing the plan of attack. And I'll tell you what I liked about Dowell in the spring game, because, he said it's going to be vanilla. He's like, and it was. But vanilla was throwing a bunch of 9 rounds, chucking it down the field. I mean, the verts, boom, we're going. And I just have a feeling, based on some comments from some players and other people, this offense they're not running the Adam Gase offense from the Dolphins. Okay. This is the offense is going to be a lot more like what Penn State does and what Arkansas did under Kendall Browse. And a lot of people are mistaken about the Browse system. Well, Tennessee runs the Browse system. That's an example. The Browse system is set up to where if you have a KJ Jefferson and you can run it like a freight train, you can. But if you don't, you can chunk it all over the yard. You don't need RG3 to run this offense. I mean, there's been a lot of other players that can't run at quarterback that have lit it up through the years in this offense. So yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Well, and like Contral said, surprised no one picked Xavier Legette. You got to remember, though, who is the out of nowhere guy? Xavier Legette isn't coming out of nowhere. He's a marked man. He's proven that with kickoff returns and big plays and everything. Who did Nick even worry last year was out of nowhere. DQ Smith was out of nowhere. I think if it wasn't so deep at wide receiver, Kyle Horton would be a guy who'd be literally out of nowhere this year.
I was going to offer that name as somebody who could just show up on the radar. Yeah, either that or what's his name? Caldwell?
Elijah Caldwell. I mean, I agree with all that. I just think that those guys, as good as they are and they're going to play, they're also going to just run into a playing time issue because there's so many guys there that are flexible that can do multiple things. So, like, who's coming out of nowhere? I mean, JC's already hit this guy multiple times. I know we got to go. We're at the end of the week. I'm ready to get the hell out of here. But JC, you said Jelon Kilgore maybe a month ago. I mean, Jelon Kilgore is a guy who I think probably has a real chance to come out of nowhere. This guy, I think Pup Howard is going to come out of nowhere for the rest of the league. We're aware of him. But I think the rest of the league soon is going to be like, well, now, wait a second. This guy's a freshman? Oh, okay.
This team will have a lot of freshmen. It'll be a lot like the 2000 team in a certain ways. Y'all remember the 2000 team? A lot of veterans.
Yeah.
But like in the secondary, you had Sheldon Brown, Willie Alford, Antoine Neesmith, Andre Goodman. But behind those guys, you had true freshmen, Rasheem Monroe, DeAndre Island, a young Dante Robinson. That kind of thing. I think that's how. Watch the depth chart this year. You may not have a lot of freshman starters. You may by the end of the year, but you'll have a lot of freshmen that play. It is a younger team, although expectations are high. And I'll remind everybody, first time Dabo won a national championship, he's like, we're the youngest team in college football. So, sometimes you're a young team and you win when you got a great quarterback and a lot of skill talent. I'm not predicting a national championship. Don't
constrict. JC Sherbert says. No, I weighed opportunity, I think, while thinking about that, over the show here. I think Desmond Umeozulu has the opportunity to be a name to just pop out the screen. I mean, just because of the position he plays. So that's my defensive one. Because I think we've talked up Pup Howard enough to where within the Gamecock circle, that's, like you said, JB, might take the nation by storm, but we're all kind of expecting it.
and 76 brought up a couple of names here as well, who I would absolutely throw in there. I think Elijah Davis is a guy who will come along and eventually be a big one. I've heard great things about what TJ Barrett and TJ Sanders and Nick Barrett have done.
I do
great things about both of those young men and what they've been able to make of themselves coming into the fall. So, you know what? I hope every single name that's thrown out here, I hope they all have the best season that they could ever dream of having, and then JC's dream will come true. South Carolina will win the national championship.
The national championship. Where's that this year? Houston?
Man, who cares? It doesn't matter if it was in Australia, I'd go, since we've never been.
Good eye, Mike.
Good eye. From South Carolina. Yeah, I somewhere, though, what I just said, Shadow of Mom's Basement is clipping that and put it in one of his stupid little videos.
We're going to be superstars.
The guy's down there, he's watching Looney Tunes and eating some lasagna that his mom popped in, the Stouffer's lasagna.
Stouffer's
and he's clipping all the Carolina clips. He's making little videos. What a dork.
Torta ladies.
Oh, man. Hey, Shadow, don't mess with Mad Dog Mullinax now. That guy, he will find you. You're upstate brethren. He'll find you.
That's right. You live awfully close to me. I have
that chills went up my spine there, Phil.
Son of a...
He's like, don't mess up. I don't miss that guy.
It's the quiet guy you got to worry about.
Hey to my man from Chapin, South Carolina. What a great town.
Depth chart online. Go to GamecocksOnline.com and click on the media guide. I don't know if they have a depth chart out yet. If not, there's a projected one. It's not accurate, but it's close. On ourlads.com, OURLADS.com. They have projected depth charts for everybody in the country.
Yeah, the official depth chart for South Carolina is probably a little bit over a month away from being released by Coach Fink. By the way, before we get out of here,
got it. Eric Bakich, by the way, speaking of Clemson, headline and title. Bakich thankful Canarella stayed despite tampering from other programs.
In other words,
some things up there just never change.
No.
I'm sure Canarella didn't know how to get in touch with, say a former head coach.
I don't know about that, bro. All right, let's get out of here, Percy.
The prep box up there, that's like their fraternity house for the media in the upstate. Seriously.
Bro. What's up, bro?
Dude. I'll see
I've
you up
heard
there.
that from multiple fronts. Like, I feel like I ought to go up there and check it out.
Unbelievable.
Hey, my kid, the youngest kid. I got a text from him while we were on the phone. This is funny. While we're on the air. Hey, can we get DoorDash and get some McDonald's? I'm like, sure. Comes back. Hey, I didn't know they quit serving breakfast already. Can I get something else? Like, bro, it's dude.
Just because you woke up now doesn't mean the rest of the world hasn't been up for hours.
Yeah, what was that? Hot cakes and sausage, that big breakfast. Right, every muffin.
That's all right. Better than
some
the
McGriddles.
Prison hooch my youngest was
Some
trying
guy
to pick up in her room over the past week.
In the words of Dumb and Dumber, or Dumb or Dumber, whichever one you want to refer to, some guys just weren't cut out for the road.
All right, I got to go.
Let's get out of here. Yeah,
I got to do Keith's podcast.
Thanks to Wes Rucker and David Cloninger, and to all of our wonderful guests. Thanks for hanging with us this week through our coverage of SEC Media Days 2023. We are rolling towards football season. We'll be back at 11 Monday morning inside the Gamecocks, the show built by the Barndo Co. and always live from the Sinorama Studios and teed up by our friends at TravelingCountryClub.com. See you next week.